Hello and welcome to the weekly championship predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. That is right, we are doing weekly championship predictions, 46 match days, including the playoff semi-finals and the playoff final. And if you haven't watched this before, first of all, welcome to this weekly prediction show. And we normally do this by points. So, for example, the first game obviously is Huddersfield v Burnley. If I say Huddersfield beat Burnley by 2-1 and it ends 1-0 to Huddersfield, I get 1 point. If it does end 2-1 to Huddersfield, I get 3 points. However, there is no point if we get it completely, utterly wrong. So here we go, 2022-23 season. We are starting with the first game of the championship season. It's a Friday night game. It's Huddersfield versus Burnley. Can't see how these two teams got on last time because it's been a long time. Huddersfield obviously lost the playoff final against Nottingham Forest, and Burnley got relegated from the Premier League.
Yeah, and two of the sides that ruined our summer break with manager specials. So we've got a reason to dislike them already. But this is going to be a really interesting start to the season because both sides have probably had a lot more turnover than they maybe would have liked. Because Burnley, I know they released a lot of players, but a few of them they've also had to move on through players' choice. They've brought in a young coach, a lot of young players, and you can see Vincent Kompany's trying to mould in the same way he did at Anderlecht previously, which will take time. Huddersfield, we obviously got the bombshell in pre-season, didn't we? After a brilliant year last year, Corberan walked out. They've lost 6 of the 11 that started at Wembley. We highlighted it in last week's pre-season predictions. Obviously, they're up there if people want to see them.
But would it be 5 now? Because Colwell came back.
Oh, Colwell came back. Sorry, so it's 5 now officially, yes. I don't know what to go for this because before Corberan had gone, I would have gone for a Huddersfield win because I thought they would have made it a hostile atmosphere. First game of the season, they'd be up for it after a brilliant season last year. Obviously, I was at their last home game against Luton in the playoff semi-final, and they were so disciplined, as we so often expected. But now they've actually got the less experienced manager of the two. It's going to be a rubbish game because Friday nights on Sky Sports basically guaranteed that last season, albeit that was mostly West Brom. And while there should be a better game here, I'm still going to go low scoring. And I'm going to start off with the predictable, Craig. It's the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. I could see an odd goal nicking it, but 1-1's the safest bet.
I think where Huddersfield will get by is probably the crowd. If the crowd stay as they were probably at playoff semi-final and probably the last couple of games for, it will make it at Burnley a lot harder. Obviously, welcome back to the Championship, Burnley. It's the first time we've done prediction for Burnley. This will be a tough game for them. The young squad for Burnley, I think the average age now is about 22. So totally different from what it was last season under Sean Dyche. I think it'd be a lot harder for Huddersfield to settle down than Burnley because of the changes we lost. Let's say 5 of the 11 started in the final. Losing O'Brien and Toffolo is a massive blow for them. And also Corberan as well, don't get me wrong. I'm going to go for Burnley to win by 2-1. Right, let's get to Saturday. Blackburn Rovers versus QPR. John Dale Thomas. Well, both these teams have a new manager in charge, so a debut for both of them.
Yeah, I've just realised we're getting all the manager specials out the way at the start, aren't we? All 4 of them were in the summer.
Wait till the next game.
Yeah, I know. This is another quite unpredictable one, isn't it? We've got John Dale Thomason, who's never managed in England. We've got Michael Beale, who's never managed. And we've got 2 sides that generally last season tried to play quite good football. We've got a QPR side that fell away towards the end of the year, had horrible problems with injuries, but have had a bit of squad turnover. And Blackburn, I know that you weren't the biggest Tony Mowbray fan, but they were relatively solid for the most part. They've lost some key players in terms of experience, Darragh Lenihan being a key one, of course. It's going to be about getting the front line firing. They've still got Ben Brereton Diaz as it stands. I don't really know where to go with this one. And it's such a similar story. We've got so many unpredictables with managers this year that for the first day of the season, without form to go on, because pre-season means nothing, you're basically drawing out of a hat. And I think for the first day of the season, Blackburn with home advantage. We saw last year home advantage with crowds did come back again. So I'm going to go for Blackburn to edge a tight game by 2-1. I just think they've got the little more firepower initially, but it's going to be a close game. Could go either way.
I'm going to go Blackburn to nick it by 0-0. The only reason why I think they have a much better strike power. That's the only reason why I'm going to go for 1-0 to Blackburn for that one. Right, next up, Blackpool versus Reading. Another new manager in charge, and Michael Appleton. He has his second coming this time at home to Reading, which arguably is probably the worst kit this season.
Yeah, lovely message, but a lot of contradictions and a very poor style, I think it's fair to say. Blackpool, probably the shock of the summer for me, Neil Critchley walking out to be an assistant manager. And they had such a good year last year. They were so good to watch on the counter. They overachieved massively. We discussed it in the pre-season. There's no doubt in that. And for me, it's my 22nd v 21st this season, or two very close relegation threatened sides. They're going to be in that mix, according to most people. And I think it's going to be a really, really important game even this early. Reading are essentially bringing in a Legends team, all over 30s coming in to add experience, which maybe isn't so bad given the young core of the squad that was left. They've lost a lot of midfield goals. They're going to be reliant on João and Mate to get goals for them. Blackpool, can the Stars deliver again? Can the likes of Bowler step up consistently as he did at times last season? Can Keshi Anderson be a continued threat? Can that lower league recruitment continue to deliver? Home advantage could be big here, but Reading's experience suggests that we might get a very boring but efficient season to keep them up under Paul Ince. I'm going to go, surprisingly, for the first 0-0 of the season, and not many will have that for this game.
I'm going to go 1-0 to Blackpool. I wasn't sure on the match what happened in the appointment anyway. Reading, I worry about Reading. I think the talk of points deduction has gone a bit quiet again. I think they might spring up probably in September, October. I don't expect this to be a spectacle. So, yeah, I'm going to go 1-0, but this probably be 4-0. Once again, I did this last season and it worked. So I'm going to say 1-0 to Blackpool, but probably end 4-0.
The most unpredictable league in the world for a reason.
It is the most unpredictable league in the world, and we still do this. Right, next up, we'll go to Wales. Cardiff versus Norwich. Norwich, one of their favourites. Cardiff probably made the most signings so far in this window.
Yeah, Steve Morrison stuck good to his word, didn't he? He said he needed to gut out the squad and get players in with good game management, and he's certainly done that. There's experience in the squad. Ryan Allsop in goal from Derby just being one of many examples. And a few players that have done it in the Championship solidly before, the likes of O'Dowda, Romain Sawyers. There's definitely a changing of the guard there. Norwich, though, as we say, every time they're in the Championship, they're favourites to be in the top two. They've got a squad that seemingly is too good for the Championship and not good enough for the Premier League. The core of it's together. I mentioned Isaac Hayden adding that bite in the middle. It's a long trip for the first day of the season, but I think with Cardiff making so many signings and Norwich being stable, I have to go for them to nick it. I think this game might be a little bit better. I'd fancy Timu Puki to be one of the top scorers in the league again. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Norwich away from home. And I think they're going to be right up there, aren't they?
Yeah, I agree. We both said that in the predictions. I'm going to go 2-0 to Norwich. I think if Norwich score early, I think they're a sharp shot. I know it's a different coaching charge now instead of what it was last time in the Championship, but this is still the same Norwich squad, which is arguably boring. So, yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 to them. Right, Hull versus Bristol City. I've got not much to say about these two sides. Any real note from a Luton point of view is Cal Naismith to Bristol City.
Yeah, they've made a couple of good defensive additions, in fairness to them. They got Wilson from Forest Green as well at right back. They had to address that area. They had one of the worst defensive records in the league last year. I think it was third worst. And it was an area that cost them so many points, so many late goals conceded. They had to shore it up a little. And I think that will do that and secure them a comfortable mid-table spot. Whether they've improved enough going forward to go any further, I don't know. But Hull's a similar story to Cardiff, really. Obviously, we had the big takeover in the middle of last year. They got themselves safe, but there's been so much change this summer. Keane Lewis Potter, the star man from last year, off to Brentford. Loads of players coming in. A mix, to be fair, of players that I think will be helpful, like Figueiredo, who suits the style of playing out from the back. But then also a lot of a Turkish influence moving forward. John Mikel Seri was probably one of the surprise signings of the summer there as well. Has got the potential to be a star in midfield. I don't really know what to go for this one. I know that it changed briefly during the middle of last season, but Bristol City generally were a lot better away from home. And the few times I saw Hull at home, they struggled a bit. So I think for the opening day, there's going to be a lot of optimism with Hull. There's going to be a lot of fans in, but I think it will take a while to gel. So I'm actually going to go for Bristol City to win. And I'm going to go by 2-0. I think their newfound defensive signings are going to make them a lot more solid at the back. I'm going to have egg on my face there, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm going opposite way. I'm going to go 2-1 to Hull. I think the fans, obviously, will play a part. Obviously, they'll all come back in now. Obviously, the takeover has made a hell of a difference to them. Even though Bristol City have strengthened in defence, I still feel like under Nigel Pearson, they're going to make the same mistakes. I really do. They had that run of games last season they were conceding 2 or more, which was a big worry. Obviously, we'll both know about Naismith, and we won't go any more about it. But I still feel it's the same. I think now shot over lads, he's got that summer in him. He can obviously work on this whole side. So I'm going to go Hull to nick it by 2-1. Right, next up, Kenilworth Road, Luton Town versus Birmingham City. Obviously, we'll get the bias out of the way. Luton have strengthened since the playoff defeat. Birmingham's off-field antics have been, what's the word I should use? Laughable, chaotic, calamity. So 5-0 Birmingham.
Yeah, it does always seem to be that way, doesn't it? Look, I know we've both got Luton in the playoff mix. I know I've got them to just make it and you not quite. Most people, including us, have got Birmingham as it stands in the relegation zone. Of course, a good takeover could change that massively. But Birmingham always beat Luton. Last year, it was a very similar story, and it was 8-0 to Birmingham on aggregate over the 2 games. They always have Luton's number. I know it's ridiculous, but there's something mentally to it. I hope it's wrong because, I'd like to see a nice first day of the season and not be put off immediately on the return. But I did have a massive sigh when I saw this game was first. I think I'm going to split the difference from last year. I know it sounds stupid, but Birmingham always do it. I'm going 4-0 Birmingham. I think they've got our number. I think there is a genuine superstition for the bogey factor there. So please be wrong.
2-0 Luton. There's the first fight of the season.
He's kiboshed it.
No, I Luton have strengthened massively. Nathan Jones, hopefully, will have sussed out Birmingham's way. It could be John Eustace only game in charge. We don't know. Kenilworth Road, first game season. It'll be a horrible atmosphere to deal with a away team. I can't remember last time Luton lost at home on the opening day. So, yeah, that's been a while. Touch wood, it doesn't happen like that. But I think Luton will be fine. Luton to win by 2-0. Right, next up, it's Millwall versus Stoke. Yeah. It's
a bit of a weird one, this, isn't it? Because Millwall have probably been, in my opinion, they've not done a huge amount of transfer work. I think they've been one of the winners of the transfer window. I've said it before briefly in the predictions. I genuinely believe, despite losing Jed Wallace, I think Zian Fleming is one of the most underrated signings in the Championship this year. And I really hope he can find his form from the Netherlands and bring it over with him. Keeping a Phobie, bringing in Honeyman, Cresswell and Shackleton on loan from Leeds. It's just a solid squad. And they're going to be in that mix. They're going to be solid at home. And most of the games are going to be close and low scoring, as they were last year when narrowly missing out. Stoke have probably been the busiest side since we did our pre-season predictions last week. Dwight Gale obviously coming in up front, had some much needed Championship know-how. Nick Powell's picked up another injury, but Will Smallbone in from Southampton gives them a little bit of better cover in that area. But I have to go for Millwall because they were so solid and so consistent at home last year. If Fleming can step up and replace Jed Wallace, as I expect, I think they have a similar year. So I'm going to go for a very boring and efficient 1-0 or 2-1. 2-1 to Millwall.
I'm going to go Championship favourite scoreline for the first time this season, and definitely not the last time. 1-1 in this one. I think it'll be a very good point for Stoke away from home to start with. I think they've got to give them a very tough away fixture to have going to the new Den. And so I think, obviously, we all know first home game of the season, the crowd's going to be absolutely up for it because they've been waiting since May. Once again, New Den is one of those hostile places to go to. And I think if they can spoil it, Stoke, I think they'll be okay. So I'm going to go 1-1. Right, next up, it's Rotherham versus Swansea at the New York Stadium. Rotherham won the favourites to go down. And Swansea, they have improved. They've obviously added to the squad. But will they keep the goals out?
I actually think they're going to have a much better season this year, purely because they've signed defenders that suit Russell Martin's style. He's got Harry Darling from MK, who obviously he worked with at the previous club. Nathan Wood from Middlesbrough adds pace in recovery, but also is a good technical defender. Obviously, the big changes in midfield. Flynn Downs going off to West Ham. Joe Allen coming back to replace him in the short term. It's a solid squad. And I think they've improved in the area they were weakest, a bit like Bristol City. But I can see Swansea moving up the league a little. I do worry for Rotherham. They've signed some solid players, but they're always going to be one of the favourites because they work in that budget constraint. At home, first day of the season, they need to make it hostile, but it's a big ground. It's a difficult place to do that in a modern stadium. I think I'm going to go for Swansea to win and win quite convincingly, because if they get an early goal and if they are improved defensively as I expect, I think they might run Rotherham ragged. So I'm going to go for worryingly 3-0 to Swansea. Clean sheet as well. That's a mistake, isn't it?
Yes, I just wrote 2-0 down for myself. 2-1 instead, because I'm going to keep up all season. If I see Swansea give away a lead, I will be hammering them. Or if they pass up for the back and they concede from that, I will go into them this season. It's not a vendetta against Swansea, but it's just I'm sick of seeing that. I think Swansea win this game. I feel Rotherham are much weaker coming into the season after being promoted, which is very worrying from my point of view. But hearing how Paul Warne coaches it manages his team for matchday, if you haven't listened to the Moment of Truth podcast on the BBC, it's very good. Please check that out. I can understand how he does it in a way, and I feel for him in a way. But I think Swansea will be fine in this game. I'll be brutally honest. So 2-1. They'll be 2-0 up, and then they'll concede a sloppy goal near the end. All right, next up, it's the second promoted team. They were the League One champions last season, Wigan Athletic. They're at home to Preston, so a bit of a Lancashire derby there.
Yeah, I saw them on the last day of last season, where it was a little bit nervy at the start, but then it became a party towards the end. And I know people have been a bit concerned about Wigan and Sunderland, who we'll get to later, about their sort of lack of transfer activity, but both of them did a lot of their recruitment and planning for the Championship last year, and Wigan had a very good squad, and I still think they'll be fine with the squad they've got. They've added Niambi, who's a solid one at right back, and Preston have improved as well, to be fair. It's going to be really interesting to see what he can get, Ryan Lowe, out of Ben Woodburn, because he's a player that's had so much potential, often flattered to deceive, had inconsistent spells, so he's going to be a key man if he can get him firing. Since we did our pre-season predictions, Troy Parrott's come in to add firepower. We said
Troy Parrott's come in to have firepower.
Very good. We did say that they were going to miss Cameron Archer because he was so key for them the second half of last year. Can he step up to the plate? And Freddie Woodman's an improvement in goal, so quick mention for him. But I think this game's going to be really tight, and I think it might be an exciting game as well. I'm going to go for 2 goals apiece. I think Wigan have got excitement going forward, but defensively, I can see Preston opening them up, despite not scoring that many last year.
In a while since we've done a crazy random prediction. I'm going to go 3-2 to Wigan. Yeah, it was obviously good to see him back in the Championship, and you get to go to the DW and hopefully be a goal next time you actually go there. So, but I'm going to go 3-2 to Wigan. The Lancashire derby, I think it'll be a hot and spicy one. Right, next up, Middlesbrough versus West Brom. So Middlesbrough, one of the favourites to be up there. Well, both these teams might be up there, and this could be probably the toughest game of the weekend.
Yeah, I think this is going to be properly cagey, a real battle. Middlesbrough, I know they're one of the favourites. Obviously, they've got the Jed Spence money in now, but they haven't yet got those attacking reinforcements, and that is all they're missing. I know that for 1 or 2 games, they'll probably get away with it, but it's going to be harder later in the season. Does worry me that it's on TV, because West Brom's games on TV last year were good enough to send you to sleep, let me tell you that. But Steve Bruce has recruited well, added loads of goals from midfield, Jed Wallace, John Swift, and it's going to nick them one today. So I'm going to go on Saturday evening for a 1-0 West Brom win. I think once Middlesbrough sign the striker, they'll bang in the goals at home.
It's a bit worrying that they haven't signed a striker. You would have thought they would have. Yeah, okay. They lacked goals last season, like especially near the end of the season. They really lacked goals. But I'm going to go for them to win 2-1. It's a tough game, live on Sky. Yeah, I don't know. It's very hard to give you analysis on the first game of the season. I just feel like Middlesbrough can actually do something here. So, and it's not like West Brom will struggle after this. I still think they'll be okay. It's probably one of the toughest fixtures that they have for this weekend. So, yeah, 2-1 to Borough. Sticking to the area, let's go to Sunderland. They're at home to Coventry on the Sunday. Sunderland back in the Championship after 5 years. It feels like 5 years. In Coventry, good last season as well.
Yeah, it was a really good building year for Coventry. They've really impressed me since they've been back in the Championship. And Sunderland, there's one place that's going to be bouncing this weekend. It's going to be the Stadium of Light. The atmosphere is going to be incredible. They haven't done too much in the window, but they've got some good young players coming in, particularly like Ballard from Arsenal, who's obviously a Northern Irish international, was playing at Millwall last year. So good, solid additions. These are 2 sides who are going to have absolutely fine years. Can Coventry push on and become that playoff pushing side? That's the one thing we need to know this season. It's a very strong league at the top. I don't know if they can go that far, but I think they're going to put up a fight here. Everything about me wants to say the crowd's going to get Sunderland over the line, but Coventry, they're a solid side. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be a good quality game because they both like to play decent football. But ultimately, I'm going to finish the official weekend 2 days as I started them with a 1-1 Championship's favourite scoreline.
I have 1-1. 2-2 I'm going to go for. I think it could be a really good game. It won't be the 5-4 that it was a few seasons ago. Yeah, they could see Sunderland back. I say it's been a long time coming for them. Coventry, yeah, very good. Apart from that Luton game, they're horrendous. But I could see Coventry going from strength to strength again, but they'll be very happy to take a point, especially at Sunderland. And we know what their fans are like if you watch the documentary. So, yeah, 2-2. And the final game is at Vicarage Road on Monday night. It's Watford versus Sheffield United. Watford new manager Rob Edwards. First game in charge. Sheffield United, Paul Heckingbottom's still there. Yeah,
and Paul Heckingbottom, we've mentioned it countless times towards the end of last season, has proved us both and many other people wrong as well. I've mentioned it before. In fact, we both agreed that at the start of the season, we thought Watford would have a slower start. They've gradually picked up in pre-season, but the fans seem to be happy with the way they're playing, and they are trying to adapt to a new style, and they've got a few of the more experienced and maybe the players that were accused of giving up out of the squad last season. So I think it is going to be an okay season for Watford. They'll be in the top 6, but it will take a bit of time. Sheffield United are coming in flying. They were unlucky not to get to the playoff final. Brewster's had a good pre-season. Sheffield United have got a great squad. Again, it's a Monday night TV game. It's going to be a low-scoring match, this one for me. I'm going to go for the visitors to nick it by 2-1, but both sides definitely be in the top 6.
I'm going to go 0-0 to Sheffield United. Yeah, I expect Watford to be a slow start. I don't think, well, everyone's expectations is Watford to be up there. We all know what Rob Edwards is, what he's like. I still don't think it's the right appointment for Watford, but you know what Watford are like. They'll sack him within 3 weeks. But this is a very tough game. Sheffield United, clearly one of the favourites to win in the league. You predict them to win the league. I feel like Sheffield United have better firepower than Watford have. Even though they kept most of the squad, I can still see the mistakes in them. I really do. So I'm going to go 1-0 to Sheffield United. Let's have a quick recap. What we have predicted for the opening weekend of the Championship season. Cody still thinks the Luton curse against Birmingham will still happen with a 4-0 victory for the away side. My game of the weekend is going to be Wigan versus Preston. And those are our predictions for the first weekend of the Championship. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comments. And while you're on this channel, check our predictions for not only this league, but League One and League Two as well. Like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast. You can be a member. Click the join button down below. You can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football Free. And we'll see you next time.